1987 සිට නව්‍යකරණයෙන් ශ්‍රී ලාංකේය බැංකු ක්ෂේත්‍රයේ පෙරලියක් සිදු කළ අභිමානවත් 30 වසරක සැමරුම සම්පත් බැංකුව හෙට දින එළිය කරයි.
Making headlines tonight, Sri Lanka pays last respects to the Amarapura chief prelate.
First at 9. This is Derana 24/7.
BIA back to normal for 24/7 operations. Parliament adjourns shortly after JO time issue. In your sports headlines, Sri Lanka-Bangladesh battles second T20 at R. Premadasa, Murtaza in T20 farewell. In international news, Trump condemns Syria chemical attack while Russia challenges Trump to declare his actions on Syria. Good evening. A warm welcome to your primetime news at 9. I'm Indivari Amuatta. We take a look at your top stories tonight. The final rites of the chief prelate of the Amarapura Mahanikaya, Most Venerable Agamaha Pandita Dawaldena Sri Jnaneshwara Thera, was held with full state honours this evening.
Many, including politicians, earlier visited the Sri Vidya Vijayarama temple in Pagoda to pay their last respects to the late chief prelate of the Amarapura Mahanikaya, Most Venerable Agamaha Pandita Dawaldena Jnaneshwara Thera. The funeral parade of the Mahanayaka Thero left from the Vidya Vijayarama temple in Pagoda around 1 p.m. and arrived at Nelumpokuna. The remains were then handed over to the Tri-Forces and was brought to the Independence Square around 3 p.m. Afterwards, religious rites were initiated by the Mahasangha representing the Tri-Nikayas.
Chavata Sankhara Uppadavaya Dhammino.
President Maithripala De Silva and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe paid their final respects to the Mahanayaka Thero. The Mahanayaka Thero was born on the 31st of December 1915 in Dawaldena in the Badulla district and entered the Buddha Sasana on 8th of March 1928. The Most Venerable Thero was appointed the chief prelate of the Amarapura Mahanikaya in 2003.
The resurfaced runway of the Bandaranaike International Airport was commissioned today, resuming normal flight operations after a lapse of 3 months. Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation Maithripala De Silva said the BIA will now be able to accommodate A380 airplanes, the largest passenger airliners in the world. He said this, declaring open the new runway.
Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation Maithripala De Silva declared open the runway at a ceremony after which Sri Lankan Airlines' newly acquired flight UL 1162, which departed Trivandrum, India, made its landing on the newly laid and widened runway. The Bandaranaike International Airport in Katunayake was closed from 6th January this year for 8 hours due to reconstruction and renovation of the airport's 20-year-old runway. Flights were thereby diverted to the Mattala International Airport. After the renovation, the taxiway has been widened to 75 meters from 60 meters earlier. The runway is 3,350 meters long and is renovated with a 3-layer surface. The old electrical lights of the runway are replaced with LED electric bulbs and they are said to save 80% of power usage. It is estimated that the renovation cost approximately 7.2 billion rupees to the government. The overlay and construction work was carried out by China National Aerotechnology International Engineering Corporation. BIA airport operations will resume as usual after midnight tonight.
I am thankful to Kuwait Airlines. They are increasing their flight to Sri Lanka, and we hope all other airlines also will take this message. The 380 airplanes will be landed here in time to come, and that is a great leap in the history of aviation in Sri Lanka. And we are trying to develop Pattala also. Within another 6 to 12 months' time, we should be able to develop that airport also. We want to get the best technology available for air traffic control, etc. I think I have already given a lot of money. They are on the way. There must be more aeronautical engineers, inspectors, and air traffic controllers, and also the pilots. We should have a possible aeronautical university in Sri Lanka.
At the end of the ceremony, Minister Maithripala De Silva handed over the project letter to construct the second terminal of the airport to a Japanese company as part of the second phase of the BIA development project.
President Maithripala De Silva identifies that a systematic mechanism to improve the country's tax income is required. Speaking at the 16th annual conference of the Inland Revenue Commissioners Association, the President said that the tax net has to be broadened in order to support economic development. The conference was held in Colombo today under the patronage of President Maithripala De Silva. The President speaking here admitted that Sri Lanka's tax system is weak and that direct taxes require to be strengthened. The President went on to say that the government receives only 10 to 20% of planned tax income. Attention was also drawn to the proposed Inland Revenue Act. Minister of Finance Ravi Bandaranaike and State Minister of Finance Lakshmanyapa Abewardana also attended the summit. Sri Lanka will have separate task force for foreign direct investments and exports as well as tourism in the next few months. Participating in the inaugural ceremony of the first National Symposium for Sri Lanka's National Export Strategy, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe said that all investment, tourism and export-related activities will thereby be streamlined.
The inauguration of the first Stakeholders Symposium of Sri Lanka's National Export Strategy inaugurated in Colombo today. Over 150 private and public sector representatives joined symposium to plan the next export growth cycle of the country. The symposium held at the Temple Trees was organized by the Sri Lanka Export Development Board together with the Ministry of Development Strategies and International Trade Center along with the International Trade Center of Geneva.
To have a highly competitive social market economy, there can't be inefficiencies. There is no halfway house in this. We go ahead. There will be one task force for foreign direct investment and for exports. Secondly, another task force on tourism. So these will be the two major bodies that will advise the government and supervise the implementation of the plans and programs that they have recommended and we have accepted with or without amendments. Foreign investors who are going to come into Sri Lanka, they must be able to take their money back without too much of problems and too many taxes. In the next 3 years, for Sri Lankans to retool themselves, we are going to back it up with a training for employment program. We don't want your market eroded. So there is legislation ready, which has been passed by Cabinet, for which the Attorney General will now give his certificate, the anti-dumping law. Invest here. Next 3 years, and if you go to the north, you get a bigger depreciation allowance than the rest of the country. We are giving the total Sri Lankan entrepreneur the opportunity to grasp it and go ahead.
As a matter of fact, exports in 2016 remain stagnant compared to 2015. I firmly believe that diversification is a key to Sri Lanka's export success.
Sri Lanka export contribution to GDP has been declined since the early 2000s and the trade balance has remained negative. The reason for this, I think, for the past 20 years, we hardly produce anything in Sri Lanka. We were dependent on tourism and the service sector. Recognizing the changing paradigm in the international trade and Asia becoming the engine of growth in the world economy, it was felt the time was right to formulate the national export strategy to provide the required impetus to the country trade with the rest of the world.
And in response to the travel restriction on Sri Lanka imposed by the Qatari government to its nationals, the Health Ministry of Sri Lanka today said that the current situation does not warrant a restriction to Sri Lanka. Issuing a communique, Health Secretary Anura Jayawikrama told the Sri Lankan Foreign Ministry that the situation is due to a seasonal increase of influenza activity. However, he noted that the number of influenza cases, which were high in January due to the country's environmental and climate changes, are now showing a decline trend. The communique also noted that an increased number of suspected influenza patients were reported from Kandy, Kilinochchi, Jaffna and Monaragala, but highlighted that the total number of patients have decreased compared to the first 2 months of the year. Moving on to today's parliamentary proceedings, Speaker Karu Jayasuriya decided to adjourn Parliament until tomorrow, following a tense situation and heated arguments over insufficient time allocation for members of the joint opposition. The situation arose during the debate of the UN Human Rights Council resolution on Sri Lanka. During today's debate, the Speaker had granted Leader of the Joint Opposition MP Dinesh Gunawardena 30 minutes to deliver a statement on the UNHRC resolution. However, several Joint Opposition members protested, claiming the time period was insufficient. As a result, Speaker Karu Jayasuriya adjourned Parliament until tomorrow. And the Government Medical Officers Association says that they will engage in a 24-hour strike island-wide from 8 a.m. tomorrow against the government's inaction to resolve issues pertaining to the South Asian Institute of Technology and Medicine in Malabay. Addressing a media briefing today, the GMOA said that 200 other organizations and committees have extended their support to the strike action. The GMOA puts forward 5 demands, including the implementation of recommendations on CITEM proposed by the Sri Lanka Medical Council, gazetting of minimum standards for medical education, terminating the degree offered without adhering to proper standards, withholding student admissions to the private medical college in Malabay, and the implementation of a systematic program for qualified students already enrolled to CITEM. Meanwhile, when contacted, the Health Ministry told us that the report compiled by the Sri Lanka Medical Council, together with the deans of state medical faculties on the minimum standards required for private medical colleges, will be submitted tomorrow. Minister of Disaster Management Anurup Priyadarshini calls all stakeholders in humanitarian and disaster response to be ready with systematic approaches to combating disaster. He said this participating at a workshop on strengthening capacity of government and local humanitarian organizations on preparedness for emergency response in Sri Lanka.
Strengthening emergency response capacity of local humanitarian actors in Sri Lanka, a 3-year partnership between the Asian Disaster Preparedness Centre and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation aims at improving inter-organizational coordination by engaging local humanitarian organizations and institutions in dialogue with the government. The program also expects to improve the humanitarian response to disasters by strengthening the interface between the government and local humanitarian organizations. The Disaster Management Center will be playing the lead role in project implementation.
Events in the past have taught us and the communities to take proactive measures to safeguard lives and properties. Risk governance, invest for disaster reduction and strengthening the disaster preparedness for effective response are the core priority areas of the Sri Lanka Disaster Management Plan at national and local level. Understanding the issues confronted by government officials and lesson learned practices and issues, the ideal locations that are possible for any disaster, even before what type of measures that we have to take to mitigate those disaster-prone situations. We believe that this investment will improve the humanitarian response process and lead to significant improvement in humanitarian architecture of the country while ensuring excellent representation of local humanitarian organizations.
I'll be back with your business stories on the other side of this break. Welcome back. Hilton Hotels and Resorts Limited inked a deal with Colombo-based steel manufacturer to build 6 hotels in Sri Lanka. Hilton Hotels and Resorts signed the 6 management agreements with Melva Group. Thereby, Melva Hotels and Resorts Private Limited will manage 3 Hilton Hotels and Resorts and 3 DoubleTree by Hilton properties in Sri Lanka. Melva, a steel manufacturer which has diversified into the tourism sector, will invest $100 million to construct the 6 resorts. The project will be completed between 2019 and 2025 and will see the addition of 800 star-class rooms to the island's hotel stock. It will also mark the entry of the award-winning DoubleTree by Hilton brand in Sri Lanka and expand Hilton's presence in the country. The 6 newly built properties, including the resorts scheduled to open between 2009 and 2025, are Hilton Kandy Resort, Hilton Yala Resort and Spa, Hilton Koskada Resort, DoubleTree by Hilton Norelia, DoubleTree by Hilton Colombo International Airport, and DoubleTree by Hilton Negombo. The Colombo Bourse extended gains to an 8th session as both indices closed with positive returns today. Despite the notable gains in the index, market turnover remained low. We now have the daily market update with RM Sivananthan from the Colombo Stock Exchange.
The benchmark all-share price index gained 51.72 points to close at 6,250.04. While the S&P Sri Lanka 20 index gained 29.52 points to close at 3,549.98. The turnover was 578.04 million rupees with 12.98 million shares changing hands in 4,748 trades. The market capitalization at the end of the day was 2,749.54 billion rupees. Today, there were 2 crossings and the crossing turnover was 96.17 million rupees. Today's foreign purchases was 425.67 million rupees and the foreign sales was 169.12 million rupees.
Now we take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded across other major currencies during the day. I'll be back with your sports stories on the other side. Welcome back. The second T20 between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh is currently underway at the R. Premadasa International Cricket Stadium. Playing his last T20 International, Bangladesh skipper Mashrafi Murtaza won the toss and elected to bat first. Bangladesh openers Imrul Kais and Saumya Sarkar got off to a flying start, building a 71-run first wicket stand. Sri Lanka's Asela Gunaratne was able to break the partnership by dismissing Saumya Sarkar. Lasith Malinga picked up his first T20 hat-trick today, giving the Lankan fans a spectacular showdown at the R. Premadasa. Bangladesh scored 176 at the end of 20 overs. Sri Lanka is currently 40 for the loss of 5 wickets.
37. So they've bowled really well, particularly, and Malinga was the one. And started off. Pereira picks up the wicket, yes indeed. And little flickies here by Mushfiqur. And what a six. Probably
the 10th edition of the glamorous show in the shortest form of cricket. The Indian Premier League got underway at the Rajiv Gandhi Stadium yesterday with the Sunrisers Hyderabad taking on Royal Challengers Bangalore. The absence of hard hitters and Royal Challengers Bangalore has built pressure for the team as they lost the first match of the 2017 IPL against the defending champions Sunrisers Hyderabad.
Royal Challengers Bengaluru won the toss and elected to bowl first. RCB entered the grounds short of its major players AB de Villiers, Virat Kohli and KL Rahul, who missed the inaugural match due to injuries. Shikhar Dhawan scored 40 of 30 balls for Sunrisers Hyderabad, while Moises Henriques contributed with a half-century. Bengaluru's Srinath Arvind missed the opportunity to prevent Yuvraj Singh from scoring his fastest IPL half-century when Srinath dropped a catch from Yuvraj at deep square leg earlier. Yuvraj made 50 of 23 balls, helping Sunrisers Hyderabad post a commendable total of 207 for the loss of 4 wickets.
Oh, the massive. Into the crowd.
Yuvraj Singh was later bowled by Taimal Mills, who was one of the most expensive bowlers taken on the IPL auction.
Another slower ball, but everybody here.
The six machine Chris Gayle started off with his maximums, scoring 33 for the Royal Challengers, but failed to pull the team through.
First IPL player from Afghanistan made an immediate impact.
A wicket in the first.
Afghanistan's Rashid Khan took 2 wickets on his IPL debut, while Indian bowlers Ashish Nehra and Bhuvneshwar Kumar took 2 wickets each for the Sunrisers. Royal Challengers Bengaluru could only score 172 all out and lost by 35 runs against the Sunrisers Hyderabad.
Who've taken the lead here, they've won their first game in the tournament.
In your international news, US President Donald Trump described Tuesday's chemical attacks in Syria as an act against humanity and said that he will bear responsibility in responding to the attacks, which left 72 dead and aroused a global outcry. He said this speaking at a White House press conference yesterday.
The deadly chemical attacks, which killed dozens in Syria's Idlib province on Tuesday, overshadowed a joint news conference with US President Donald Trump and visiting King Abdullah of Jordan, held at the White House yesterday.
A chemical attack that was so horrific in Syria against innocent people, including women, small children, and even beautiful little babies. Their deaths was an affront to humanity. These heinous actions by the Assad regime cannot be tolerated. The United States stands with our allies across the globe to condemn this horrific attack.
Do you feel like you bear responsibility for responding to the chemical attack?
I now have responsibility, and I will carry it very proudly.
How will you distinguish your policy and your actions on Syria from the inaction that you criticized of the previous administration? You say it's now your responsibility. What should we see, or what should we look for that will be different?
I will tell you that attack on children yesterday had a big impact on me. Big impact. That was a horrible, horrible thing. It's already happened that my attitude toward Syria and Assad has changed very much. The United States will work with whoever it's appropriate to work with to totally eradicate ISIS and other terrorists. We will do what we have to do to eradicate terrorism.
King Abdullah II of Jordan, who is in the US on an official visit, also condemned the attacks and voiced his support for US President Trump.
And it's the civilians, women and children that are paying the heaviest price. This is happening on our watch.
In response to US President Donald Trump's statements on the Syrian chemical attack, Russia challenged him to set out his strategy on Syria after he declared that the attack had transformed his views on the regime of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Trump has not offered any details of how US strategy on Syria would change, nor has he directly criticized Russia. When asked if Russia would reconsider its backing for Assad, Russia's foreign ministry stated that Assad is the legal president of an independent state. Russia, as Syria's most powerful ally, has continually stood by President Assad in the face of worldwide condemnation of the attack that killed at least 86 people. I'll be back with your weather forecast after this break. On to your weather forecast now. Except for southwestern part of the island, possibly for the afternoon, thunder showers are expected, likely reducing humid conditions during the afternoon hours. Showers and thunder showers will occur at several places in the western Sabaragamuwa, central Uva and southern provinces in the afternoon. A few showers can be expected in the southwestern coastal areas during the morning too. Here's a look at your city-by-city forecast for the next 24 hours. And that's all the news on your primetime news at 9. Do log on to www.otherderana.lk for your very latest. Before we go, we would like to leave you and take you on safari into the national parks of Sri Lanka, bringing you up close with the nature's glory. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.
Information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana, 24/7.